This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeff Malinoff. We've got a good bit to talk about today. We have Pac-Man Jones in the news again, and you think it'd be him signing to a team or getting called up into another, talk about a contract for another team, maybe in Cincinnati. You'd be wrong. He got arrested again. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll also talk about Russell Westbrook and his issue with that young fan and what he thinks about the fans, like how close they're sitting and how they're not very restricted when it comes to interacting with the players. We'll get on that as well. Devin Booker wearing a Nets uniform. That's not Phoenix Suns, so that's also an issue. Pat Shurmur, yes, he is suspended again. That, again, will be discussed. And, of course, the El Clasico between Barcelona and Madrid, the second leg in the Copa del Rey. We don't really talk about soccer on the sports show, but we need to talk about the hype leading into this next match that is happening today. So, first things first. Pac-Man Jones, yes, he was arrested again. He was arrested actually this Wednesday morning at roughly around 3 in the morning. And it was due to disorderly conduct and I believe it was public intoxication, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, it is a pretty, it's pretty much a nail in the coffin for his career. In the report, it says that he was arrested on public intoxication and disorderly conduct. But many of you are aware that this is not his first arrest. This also happened in Southwest Indiana at the Rising Star Casino. But, I think it's time to have a little journey back on let's just say the career in the arrest records when it comes to Adam Pac-Man Jones. This is alone as of 2006. In 2003, he was arrested for 1 year following a bar fight while he was a student at West Virginia. But the sentence was suspended and he was placed on 2-year probation. And even before he played a down for the Tennessee Titans, where he was drafted out of West Virginia, where he was actually drafted in the first round still, even with all this commotion coming about. He was drafted in 2005. He was the 6th overall pick by Tennessee, even with the little issues in West Virginia. But he also had legal trouble. On July 14, 2005, Jones was arrested on charges of assault and felony vandalism stemming from a nightclub altercation in Nashville, Tennessee. On September 5th, 2005, police had to become involved when Jones engaged in a loud verbal tantrum after being told to wait in line for his vehicle at the annual Nashville Sports Council kickoff luncheon, where he was a guest. He refused to pay for valet services used that evening, claiming he had no money. And then the state of West Virginia filed a petition alleging Jones had not made regular and sufficient contact with his probation officer or reported his July arrest in a timely fashion. The court ordered Jones' probation extended for 90 days. This was back when he had his probation in 2003. In February of 2006, Jones was arrested in Georgia after an incident outside a home. Charges of marijuana possession were quickly dismissed, but the state pressed charges for felony and misdemeanor counts of obstruction of justice. But wait, there's more. A Cadillac with Jones' nickname Pac-Man stitched in the headrest was seized during an April 2006 cocaine bust. The car was not registered to Jones at that time, but Jones told a local TV reporter it was his car and that he loaned it to Daryl Jerome Moore for a music video. Police sources confirmed that Moore was the main target of their investigation. Jones later bought the car at a police auction. So it wasn't actually his fault in that stance. So, so far, pretty bad record. But there's more. On August 25th, 2006, during training camp, Jones was arrested in Tennessee for disorderly conduct and public intoxication. Kind of deja vu, ain't it? At a nightclub after he spat on a woman he accused of stealing his wallet. Police said they ordered Jones to leave several times, but he refused, continuing to shout profanities at the woman. A judge gave Jones 6 months probation on the condition he stay out of trouble and away from the nightclub. On October 26, 2006, Jones was cited for misdemeanor assault for allegedly spitting in the face of a female at Tennessee State University student during a private party at Club Mystic, a Nashville nightclub. He was suspended by the Titans for 1 game. This is in 2006 alone. And this recent arrest happened this morning. So, but that wasn't the most infamous of cases. 2007, when it really turned into something completely offhanded, if you will. On the morning of February 19th, 2007, during the 2007 NBA All-Star Game weekend in Las Vegas, Jones was allegedly involved in an altercation with an exotic dancer at Minx, a local strip club. Wait a minute. Vegas has strip clubs? You learn something new every day. I'm also kidding, by the way, just for those who think I'm not. Jones and American rap artist Nelly, along with someone known as Richard Rich, showered the stage with hundreds of $1 bills in an act known as, quote, making it rain. This is what the thing says. I just laugh at the term making it rain. That's just a very common term when that comes down to it in like music videos and such like that. Club promoter Chris Mitchell then directed his dancers to collect the money. According to the club's co-owner, Jones became enraged when a dancer began taking the money without his permission, even though he was throwing it at her. He allegedly grabbed her by her hair and slammed her head on the stage. Oh my God. A security guard intervened and scuffled with members of Jones' entourage of half a dozen people. Jones then allegedly threatened the guard's life. During this time, Mitchell and a male associate left the club with a garbage bag filled with $81,020 and two expensive watches, which police later recovered. After club patrons left following the original confrontation, the club owner claimed a person in Jones' entourage returned with a gun and fired into a crowd, damaging equipment and hitting 3 people, including a security guard. The guard was shot twice, and one of the people hit, former professional wrestler Tommy Urbanski, was paralyzed from the waist down. Jones maintains that he did not know the shooter, although the club's owner insisted Jones did. On March 26, 2007, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department recommended to the city's district attorney that Jones be charged with 1 count of felony corrosion, something, I can't pronounce that word, and 1 misdemeanor count of battery and 1 misdemeanor count of threat to life. And there was more trouble followed Jones after the altercation when drug dealer Daryl Jerome Moore was arrested. Wiretapped phone conversations between Moore and his friends revealed Moore talking about how Jones bet on college games to earn quick money. Quote, I was talking to him the other day about smoking, and he was like, man, if I didn't smoke, I couldn't take all the stress that I'm dealing with right now. End quote. On June 20th, this is still going, this whole ordeal. On June 20th, 2007, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and Clark County District Attorney's Office announced that Jones would face 2 felony charges stemming off from this February strip club melee. That's what they call it. Apparently there was a shooting as well, so whatever. On November 13th, 2007, Jones accepted a plea deal. Oh, good for him. And on December 6th, Jones pleaded no contest to 1 charge of conspiracy to commit disorderly conduct, a misdemeanor. He was given a suspended prison sentence for 1 year probation in order to perform 200 hours of community service. Then with the professional wrestler who was paralyzed, Tommy Urbanski, and his wife, Kathy, sued Jones in civil court, claiming that Jones had bitten his left ankle and was responsible for the shooting. The lawsuit also named the Tennessee Titans and the NFL as defendants on the grounds that Jones' employers knew of his erratic behavior prior to the Minks incident, but did not suspend him until afterwards. Had the Titans suspended Jones prior to the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game, the suit argues he would have not been invited to the Las Vegas events and the incident would not have taken place. Wow. And then in 2012, a jury ordered Jones to pay $11.6 million to Urbanski and Aaron Cudworth, a bouncer who was wounded, for Jones' role in 2007's Las Vegas shooting. So it happened. So 5 years later, he actually ends up paying him money. And Jones' attorney said he planned to appeal the verdict. Oh my. That's just... Then in 2015, the Nevada Supreme Court upheld the order. He had to pay the victims of the shooting. And that wasn't his only thing in 2007. Apparently, in May of that year, he also was heading into downtown Nashville after an officer clocked him on a radar of 79 miles per hour in a 55-mile-per-hour zone. He was driving a Cadillac, which had been seized in April 2006 cocaine bus, in which he had brought back from the police at auction. So, okay. And then he was stopped by police for questioning in June of that year, 2007, after a shooting at an Atlanta strip club allegedly involved members of his entourage. There's sometimes you just don't you're involved with the wrong people, and Jones seemed to be that kind of guy. And then regarding to February's strip club incident, this is continuing to the 2007. Brian Gumbel of HBO Sports and Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, he was innocent and had never hit the stripper or told anyone he was going to. Jones told Bryant Gumbel of HBO Sports, this is during his show, I believe, he was innocent and never hit the stripper or told anyone he was going to kill them. When asked about friend and convicted drug dealer Daryl Moore, Jones said that he did not know Moore was a drug dealer and felt surprised and betrayed. Jones also said he did not think he got a fair say in his April meeting with Goodell. And, of course, this was not his only issue in a strip club. In 2008, Jones was accused of hitting a woman in a strip club in Atlanta, Georgia. On the morning of January 3rd, the woman, Wanda S. Jackson, was seeking an arrest warrant. Wow. How did this guy still play in the NFL after this whole, 2-year stint of arrest warrants and shootings in a strip club and all this other things? And multiple occurrences in a strip club. And he was playing in 2013-14 season. I think he was just signed by the Denver Broncos in 2018. He obviously got released at that time. But from 2005, let's just say 2010, he played with 3 different teams. The Titans, the Cowboys, and the Bengals. And then he was on the Bengals for 7 years. 7 whole seasons with the Bengals. And there was so much stuff happening in that time. Why did this guy keep playing in the NFL? That's my ultimate question. This arrest that's just happened today should be the last straw, and he should not play in the NFL again. I know it's just a disorderly conduct and public intoxication, but enough's enough. This guy has an arrest warrant is longer than probably his stat line in the NFL. It's absurd. And guys like that should not be playing in the NFL due to the fact that it's not just based on what he's done, but his the people around, the group around him and what they've done. It's gone to a point of ridiculousness. But just from 2006 to 2008, the amount of stuff he's been involved with and the seriousness of stuff he's been involved with and the people that he associates himself with is bad. I don't know if it's unexcusable or however you want to put it, but the fact that he's been involved in all these pretty serious scenarios, especially the one where a man was paralyzed and another security guard was wounded due to someone in his quote entourage was shooting in a crowd, and then he was thought to have bashed a woman's head in on a stage for taking money, and her job is being a stripper, so that's her job to do that. and you were throwing the money at her. So I don't really understand. There's obviously something mentally wrong with him. Either he's an alcoholic, or I'm not saying it's all like alleged. I'm not sure what his problem is. Maybe football has caused him his brain damage. Then maybe we should check on that. I'm not sure, but there's a point where enough's enough, and this arrest in 2019 is the final straw to me. If I was in the NFL, if I was an owner in the NFL, I would not even waste my breath talking to this guy about signing a new contract for another shot in the NFL. Would the AAF give him a shot? Maybe. But like the XFL's rule about having criminal records, you're not allowed to play like that, gives Johnny Manziel no chance. That gives, well, I'm assuming they'll maybe let it slide for him. But when it comes to Adam Pac-Man Jones, I don't think he's getting another shot in a nationally televised football league again. Because I can't really call the AAF a professional league, and I can't call the XFL a professional league until like 2020, where we'll see how everything goes. But I'll call it nationally televised football leagues, because I'm assuming XFL will get a national televised deal going into that 2020 season. So, just to like recap, just Adam Jones just got arrested again. This is a multiple arrest and multiple accounts of violence and intoxication and multiple disorderly conduct disorderly conduct, arrests, and charges, and that's just enough's enough. That's all I got to say about the matter. That's all I'm going to say about it. But, yeah, that's just something that shouldn't be going on. But that's not the only problem that's actually been going on in the NFL when it comes down to their player. Well, I guess he's a former player now. But Dallas Cowboys defensive end, drafted in 2015 in the second round by the Dallas Cowboys, Randy Gregory. He has been suspended yet again on violating the league's substance abuse policy and the terms of his conditional reinstatement, because he's been suspended by this before. He was reinstated in July of last year by the NFL on a conditional basis, allowing him to report to training camp or participate in meetings. This is after his suspension in January of 2017 for a 1-year ban, a 1-season ban for missing a scheduled drug test after another suspension of him in his another substance abuse policy. So he's had 4 suspensions in the last 4 years due to a substance abuse policy. In the 64 games that he had been able to play in his career from 2015 to now, the 64 games his team was in that he could have played in, he's played in 28 of them. And 28 of them due to suspensions mainly. There was a high ankle sprain in his rookie year, but overall, a majority of the games he had missed is because of the fact he was suspended due to a substance abuse policy. That's only 43% of the games he could have of the games he's played in, appeared in at least. And my question now remains: it's been 4 years since he was drafted in the second round. And in those 4 years, he's been suspended 4 times. And one of them was a whole season, a whole year ban. So, but when's enough? Is his career done now? Are they going to give him another opportunity? How long is his suspension going to even last for? But this is, again, kind of like a Pac-Man Jones situation. You've had multiple opportunities, and you're still doing the same things. And I think it's one of those instances in where you maybe have to cut ties with the guy. And with that, I say it's a shame, really. But it's just a shame of just how some people can't control themselves when it comes to substance abuse or crimes. It's just a lot of wasted potential is all. And with that, I want to take a little break, and when we return, we will be talking about other news in the world of sports, such as some basketball and even some soccer in there too. And I'll be right back right after this.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Just finishing up our football talk. We already talked about the two men that have been associated in the NFL but have been suspended and or arrested in the last 24 hours. And now we'll talk one more thing about football, and then we'll move on to another sport. But Pat Shurmur, the head coach of the New York Giants, says he wants Eli back, and Eli is coming back. He says Eli is, quote, Eli is back. And he can, quote, and this is what his quote is. He said, Eli can help us win games, end quote. To that I say, he's won games, sure, but he can't anymore. Like, the records speak for themselves. The last 2 years speak for themselves, and where you are in the draft, and where you are in your division, you're hurting yourselves. If, like, I'm not sure. I know I said that he should be coming back to benefit the quarterback they should draft. But if they're stubborn enough and they don't draft a quarterback because, hey, we got Eli Manning, this team is going way farther back than expected. This team has to draft a quarterback this year. I understand drafting Saquon Barkley last year. That was a generational talent, and he's been absolutely fantastic. There's no doubt about it. He's a huge addition to this team. That's one thing. But going too far as to avoid the situation at your quarterback position and not draft a Dwayne Haskins or a Kyler Murray or a Drew Lock or a Daniel Jones, put your team in a serious hole for the next season, at least the next couple of years. Because if you don't draft a quarterback this year, you can't have him be behind Eli Manning. And being behind a quarterback for just a season or two is much better than throwing a quarterback you just drafted into the lion's den. Because look at Patrick Mahomes. Took him a year behind Alex Smith to become an amazing quarterback. Quarterbacks need to marinate in the NFL before getting thrown right into the fire. Like, I could give you two great examples. Look at Aaron Rodgers and look at Alex Smith. Both drafted in the same draft in the 2005 draft, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was 2004. And Alex Smith was drafted to the 49ers and made the immediate starter. Aaron Rodgers was drafted by the Packers and was behind Brett Favre for 4 years, or 3 years, roughly. And look how they both turned out. One may not play again due to a horrific injury, but he really didn't live up to the number one overall pick potential that people saw him coming out of Utah. And Aaron Rodgers is considered the best quarterback in the NFL, most talented quarterback in the NFL, maybe even the most talented quarterback of all time. And he has a Super Bowl ring to prove. And he took a team to 15-1. He's just done some of the most iconic plays in the last 5-6 years in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers has been a part of them, most of them at least. So what I'm saying is, you don't need to be behind like a Brett Favre, legendary Hall of Fame quarterback, but not starting your first year as a rookie is not a bad thing. I mean, some start off amazing. I mean, look at Baker Mayfield. But the thing is with that is he has so much talent around, so much young talent around him that he can only have benefited from that. Not taking anything away from how good he is. He did a fantastic job, no question about it. But the fact remains, he had a lot of very talented players around him, both in the running back position and in the wide receiver position. He had a good offensive line. He was in a very comfortable situation. And then you look at, like, Peyton Manning, his first year, when he started. He went 3-13. He didn't do very well. But then he came back and did well. That's an exception to the rule also. But how many times have we seen a guy get immediately the starter and fall off a cliff, or immediately fall off a cliff? Jamarcus Russell, Ryan Leaf. There's probably another one up there that I'm missing. Tim Tebow, I guess, is a perfect example. I mean, he started and then he had 6 game-winning drives and blah, 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 but he obviously, everyone found his weaknesses and exploited them very quickly. With that, and with a lot of others, let's look at, like, Paxton Lynch as a first-round pick. If I'm not mistaken, he was. I think Trevor Siemian was also. Maybe he was a late-round pick. One of them was a first-round pick. The other one was a late-round pick. I know that for certain. But, I mean, there's just sometimes you just got to let a guy wait. You got to let a guy marinate in the NFL for at least a season. Be the backup for at least a season, and then put him into it. Because then he'll get used to the offense in practices and in training camp, and he'll just feel more comfortable in the NFL speed probably too. When it comes to, like, you can play him in the preseason obviously, but when it comes to the NFL, like, regular season, he can just observe it from the sidelines and take it all in and see how fast it is compared to the college football level. It will benefit everybody if you draft a quarterback this year in New York. If you don't draft a quarterback this year, the team's going backwards the next 3 years. Because then you need to find another quarterback in another draft. But are you too stubborn? If you don't find one in this year, are you too stubborn to find one next year until Eli Manning says, I'm officially going to leave right now? And so then you have to immediately draft a quarterback and put him as your starter, because that's what you're probably going to do if you don't draft a quarterback this year. So I just say, my Lord, I hope the New York Giants better draft a quarterback. If anyone needs one to marinate, and anyone that has the best option, the most attractive place for a quarterback right now is the New York Giants coming into the draft, because you'll be a backup. And I mean, look at Patrick Mahomes as a perfect example of this, waiting for at least a season and seeing how talented he really is, and really shows his ability. So that's all I got to say about that. So I'll move on now, though. And moving from that, we'll move on to, well, we will move on a little bit. We'll continue a little bit of football, but let's go to basketball right now. Devin Booker. He was seen on a picture in a boat. I'm not sure. I think it might have been a yacht, for all I know. But regardless, he was seen in Brooklyn Nets gear. Now, I'm not entirely sure why, or what maybe what the scenario was, if you will, or what the background is to why he was wearing that, but it seemed to really affect people the wrong way, especially Suns fans. Like, is he leaving us? Is this a version of tampering? So on and so forth. But it's definitely an interesting thing to think about, because not often do you see a guy just, when he's playing for one team, dress in a completely different team's, like, merchandise. And I don't know if people are overthinking this, if I'm overthinking this or not, but I would definitely be like, if I'm the GM of the Suns, or an owner of the Suns, or something of the, or like even the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, I'll be talking to him like, what the heck are you doing? Why are you dressing in Brooklyn Nets gear while you're playing for us? You're making us look like pretty weak, or not weak, but just it just makes them a little more laughable, honestly. And with that, I just have to say, like, I'm not sure what this is going to lead to. Maybe this will all blow over in a couple of seconds. Who knows? But just maybe it just shows his frustration with the team as well. Maybe there's a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to this one picture. I know it's only one picture. Maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe this shouldn't even be talked about. But I mean, when you're looking at probably the most talented player, their biggest point scorer. I mean, this guy scored 70 points not too long ago, and all just him in a Brooklyn Nets jersey, basically. It looks like I just realized it looks like D'Angelo Russell's All-Star Game jersey. But regardless, not maybe the time to do that because you're already on a team. I'll look at his contract right now and see how long he has left on it because I think he's still in a rookie. I don't think he's in a rookie deal anymore. He might be. I'm not entirely sure. But we'll look at Devin Booker's contract. And right now he's finishing up his 4-year, $9 million contract, his rookie contract. But he just signed an extension to get him into, and then he's a free agent in 2024. That extension is a 5-year, $158 million contract. So it's a max. He signed the max contract, and he signed it using the Bird rule. And so his average salary is $31 million a year, and he's becoming an unrestricted free agent all the way until 2024. So he won't be a free agent for a long time. And with this whole Nets thing, do you discipline him? Do you look at him going, hey, we just gave you this humongous contract. You're clearly the guy on our team. And we gave you $158 million. And you're just going to wear someone else's jersey? That's honestly a little bit of a slap in the face. I honestly think that's a little bit of a slap in the face. But, again, it all comes down to how the team responds and how he responds to it. Because I would just ask him about it. If I'm a teammate of his, I'd be like, okay, what was all that about? Was it a joke or what was it in theory? But if it was him just trying to stir things up, maybe not the best time to stir things up when your team is dead last in the West and the team you're wearing is in a playoff race, So I'm not entirely sure how to really go through it. Go talk about it. And again, there's another photo of him on Instagram and stuff like that about him wearing the Brooklyn Nets stuff. Maybe we're totally overthinking this. This could be easily an overthinking kind of situation, but definitely something to think about of oh, that's different. I've never seen a guy just wear someone else's jersey before. Well, maybe not that's. I've seen guys wear other team jersey before, sure, but not into the stance of, oh, he's wanting to play for this team or in this kind of scenario. It just feels kind of like he's maybe trying to stir up the pot or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but definitely something to think about and go it's definitely something that goes makes you go, huh, okay. Makes you almost curious how everything's going, what the situation really lies. But again, I digress. This all could be a total misunderstanding. This all could be a total, overreaction by me or by the media or by whoever else is talking about this. But I thought it needed to be discussed just because of the fact that, he's wearing a separate conference and a separate team's stuff. You don't really see that often. You don't see it in this circumstance because, it's one thing wearing a throwback of a former player on a different team. That's one thing. But wearing the current jersey of a current player on another team, I think that's unprecedented. But I could be totally wrong, though, too. But if I'm a player, I'm asking him about it. Nothing. I'm not coming in guns blazing, what the heck are you doing type of thing. I'm just what's this all about? What was that all about? In a joking manner almost, trying to play it off cool. So definitely a scenario where it's going to be very interesting to try to talk his way out of this. But again, it might be just totally something that's completely blown out of proportion. But we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we'll go back into basketball a little bit and talk about a certain incident that happened in the Thunder and Nuggets game. It will be right on that when we return.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We're going to try to finish up here. We might take another break. We'll see. Because we'll see how this goes. Anyways, moving into what is going on in the world of basketball. The Nuggets and the Thunder played a game last night. In a pretty entertaining game, all things considered. Like, both Russell Westbrook and Jokic, two stars in the NBA now. I think Jokic has the right to be called a star now. Played to near triple-doubles. Westbrook was 1 assist away from a triple-double, and Jokic was 1 rebound away from a triple-double. And how this game really ended, like the Nuggets won, but that wasn't really what is the story here. A kid kind of tapped Russell Westbrook during like a stoppage of time, I think. And I saw the video. I thought he pushed him at first, but I don't think he did. I think he just tapped him. Maybe he was trying to get his attention, or he was trying to talk trash because he's a Nuggets fan or something. I'm not entirely sure what the situation really was. But so I'm looking at this again. This happened pretty early. I would say. Late in the third quarter, and I'm just trying to see. This kid just taps Russell Westbrook. And I wouldn't even say a little bit. It wasn't even like a shove. It was just like him tapping him. And Russell Westbrook seems a little upset by it, but he's talking to the kid too, so he wasn't like super upset. I think he was just like taken back by like, oh, he just touched me. Like, I kind of get what he's getting, like kind of like personal space and stuff, but it's a kid too, so I'm not sure what. Maybe the kid said something. Oh, he was just waving to him too. I think it was pretty harmless, all things considered. But it's just kind of a weird situation, all things considered. But Russell Westbrook, I almost say Russell Wilson. There's a lot of Russells in the NBA, in the world of sports. But anyways, Russell Westbrook made a quote after the game saying the fans need boundaries. And I understand there was like personal space and stuff like that. And he said, quote, the fans have too much leeway, which I understand coming from an NBA player because of the fact there's courtside seats and there's no like barrier between them and the players. Like, it's basically if they wanted to, before security got there and after sprinting there probably, they can run up to the players on the court and like attack them. I mean, that's a legit possibility when it comes down to it because there's no barrier, there's no restriction. Until like obviously the police or security comes and escorts them out of the arena, that's one thing. But they get an opportunity to do something. And so with that, I say like maybe there should be. I don't really know what you do. Maybe courtside seats, shouldn't be a thing. I'm not entirely sure what you do here. Because you're in a very particular circumstance where I really don't know what you do. You're in a touchy subject because it's also a business. You got to think about how expensive those seats are, and people are willing to pay for those seats. And with that, I really don't know it's a really difficult position to be in if you're the NBA or just the ownership of the NBA, what you do when it comes down to restricting what players do, or what fans do, excuse me. So with that, I say big question mark. And, well, Russell Wilson also was quoted to say, you just can't have kids hitting random people. I wouldn't even call that a hit. Like, security's talking to the kid. Would you call that a hit? I thought it was like a little, I thought he was just trying to, it really is hard what he was really trying to do, but I don't think it was a hit. Or maybe it was a hit. I don't think it was really intentional to hurt Russell Westbrook. I think it was just him trying to touch a player. I'm not entirely sure how all that went down, but it just seemed to me maybe it was a little over what's the word I'm looking for? It was overreacted by Russell Westbrook. Maybe not. It's honestly really hard to tell because it looked pretty harmless, all things considered. But I understand the other aspect of it, like of what was the kid doing? Was he trying to like hit him and go, "You suck" or something of that nature, or was it like he's one of my favorite players, or even though I'm a Nuggets fan, I really like him, I want to say hi to him, or in certain situations, it really didn't seem much of harm. But again, I could be totally wrong on this. There could have been a lot more than that meets the eye. Transformers. But regardless of that, I think it just all depends on just, of course, it's also the person. This also could say, oh, this is just a kid doing it. What if an adult came and just tried to sock him in the face, Like, because there's, of course, people drinking and there's other things of that nature. So it's not like it couldn't happen because people do stupid things when they're drunk. And like that, a drunken fan can easily just try to swing at Russell Westbrook in that same circumstances if he wanted to. Because there's, again, no restriction. There's no bar. There's no glass, if you will. Like, you look at the NFL. Obviously, like, when the players' benches and so on and so forth, they're like 5 to 15 yards away from, or 10 to 15 yards away from the other end, and from the players in a huge, and of course there's security at the wall, so they can't move if they wanted to. And if they did, it was complete luck and complete, like, they would get hit. They get hit almost immediately unless they run onto the field, like, and they're all in pads. So that's another thing. In hockey, they had the huge glass walls, and that is another one where you look at it and say, okay, they're in a safe area. And I guess that's the only two that I can think of that would be the most notorious ones. But, I mean, I can't really think of another sport that really, like, when it comes down like, sitting at courtside, you can have an ability to, like, throw a cheap shot, if you will. So I'm really not entirely sure how to go about that. I don't know if you get rid of the courtside seats or not. It's a very touchy subject, like I said. So we'll see how all that plays out, definitely. And to finish off the day, the El Clasico, if you're not a fan of soccer, this is probably the biggest soccer match of the year by far. Real Madrid versus Barcelona, just two of the most popular teams in the world going at it. They're in the Copa del Rey, which is a cup matchup where they play in two legs, basically two matches, and all of it based on number of goals they score. So the first leg was a 1-1 draw. So now they're playing each other again today. And with that, it all comes down to who's going to score the most. Basically, it's going down to the wire in this one. It's going to be it's close competitive matchup, so it's going to be very interesting to say the least. And I'm looking forward to it. If you're not even a fan of soccer, just look at the environment of this game and look at like how this game really shows the emotion this soccer game holds. And with that, I say just give it a shot. If you have the ability to watch it, watch it. So that is our show for the day. I don't think there's anything much to talk about other than those things. The Golden Ray, like I said, is important. Of course, there's the Bryce Harper talks, and that still is unknown where he's going to go. He says his final decision is on Friday. So we'll say that. So that will obviously all that Bryce Harper talk we save for Friday, as well as the baseball podcast today. So please tune us in then, and please tune us in tomorrow as well. And as always, I'm Jeff Malinoff, and I will see you next time.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.